So we're recording. Today is Monday, July 11th, and we're here to discuss our 6th annual International Conference on Art for Social Transformation and the updates that we've been making on both sides of the pond in preparation for our conference for this year. As you can see, our favorite screensaver is our Artisan infograph. And because I see a few new people on our call today, I just wanted to basically quickly go through that so that we're all on the same page, speaking the same language, and have a basic understanding of the goal of our conference. Of course, our primary focus is connecting artists and art culture to sustainable development, primarily in emerging economies. And so we have been doing that as a conference for 6 years now. We began our journey in Ghana in 2017. From there, we went to the Gambia. If you look at the bottom of our infographic, it'll tell you a little about some of the numbers around demographics, who actually came, etc. From the Gambia, we went to Uganda in our 3rd year. A lot of young people there. We really love that energy. From Uganda to Tanzania, they told us to stay home during the pandemic. We decided to do our conference in person anyway. Most of the coronavirus affected the United States, Europe, and Asia, not so much Africa. So we felt safe in Tanzania. And last year, we held our conference, the 5th International Conference in South Africa. And so this year, we're excited to be in Kenya. I feel that it is in divine alignment that we find ourselves in regions that are going through a local transformation as we teach art for social transformation. And I know that this is an election year for Kenya. And so I feel like the work of our conference is timely. I know that Bondface uses theater for peace building, and these are the tools that will produce results. So they will hopefully invite artists to decision-making tables after the conference, after we help communities engage in healthy ways and express themselves in productive ways using the conference. I'm hoping that artists will remain in leadership and help to define the symbolic landscape. And basically, what is that? It's the narrative that the local people believe about themselves. It's the story of the community, and that includes institutions like statues and murals, and it includes buildings and the names on those buildings, and also the people that are held in high regard, like personalities, those that are in leadership. All that makes up the symbolic landscape. And ultimately, we want to make sure that artists are a part of it. Not just, Beyonce and Jay-Z's, like we say here in the U.S., but also those that are like myself, the grassroots artist that's doing the dirty work, that's engaging civic engagement around topics that matter for our communities. And so our conference does that. We're creating the industry's largest platform to encourage idea exchange of artists, community developers, the media, decision policymakers. I mean, we want to work across sector. And even though it's being facilitated by artists, and we're primarily using the artistic lens to talk about the issues in the country and that are affecting communities globally, we want to invite practitioners across sector. We want to encourage them to consider the artistic pedagogy and encourage them to think with the creativity of the artist class. We also, as a conference, we like to work grass tops and grassroots. And so what does that mean? What I have found throughout the history of our conference is that we're able to somehow play the mediary, be the medium between those that are orchestrating society and those that don't feel as if they have a voice. And so we are able to bridge that communication gap with our conference. And so we call that connecting grass tops and grassroots. I did see a message in the group chat, so I just want to read that. And it's from Rose. She says, "Hello, my network keeps dropping. I will stay on, but follow up with the recording for what I missed. Thank you, Rose. I'm sorry the network is spotty. My network is spotty too here in York, Pennsylvania. So if something happens and you can't hear me, please let me know. And so I was saying that resource depraved and resource accessibility. We also want to bridge that gap. And we do that by sponsoring the attendance of local artists that typically wouldn't be able to afford an opportunity of this nature, making sure that they're at the table in large numbers alongside those that can afford to pay to participate. We are also very focused on intergenerational communication, connecting the elders to the young people. And this is not only important where I'm from in Baltimore, where there seems to be a disconnect, but definitely in Africa, where 60, sometimes 65% of all the people in the country are below the age of 40 years old. And so we're very intentional about connecting elders and young people during our conference. So I'm hoping that you're here today at our conversation because you would like to be one of our artisan ambassadors, an ambassador of the topic. Just saying that connecting artists and art culture to sustainable development is important, like it's something that we should all advocate and care about. And then perhaps to take a step further and say we would like to help be a part of the team that brings that conference to fruition in Kenya. So the conference itself is only the middle step, right? If you look at our arrows, you'll see Artisan Roundtable, you'll see Artisan Conference, and then you see Imagineer. So the conference is the middle. We begin with the Artisan Roundtable because we understand that our brand is new, that in many spaces, the concept of bringing artists to sustainable development tables in real ways is also new, and that because we're connecting grassroots and grass tops, that also is a paradigm shift, meaning that people are doing things, going into offices they've never had to go into before. They're talking to people they've never had to have eye contact with before. I mean, it really gets deep. And so the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable is about us introducing the concept, inviting who's who to the table, but also inviting who's next. And it's the best way for us to decide what the topics at the conference should be about. So we have different best practices, and we have experts around the world that are excited to come to the table and use their expertise to benefit any symbolic landscape that they are on. However, your country already has an agenda, you already have issues, and the local people, the local artists, they already are working on different topics across sector. Our job is to figure out what they're saying, put our ear to the street and figure out how we can support the efforts that are already ongoing. So the Artisan Roundtable is our chance to hear from them directly. For those that heed the invitation that we'll give, that want to connect with us, we're here to say we want to connect with you too. And so that helps us to determine what the breakout sessions at the conference should be about. It's also a chance for us to see some of the entities that are based in Kenya that are supposed to support us anyway. People that, I think the book is Who Has My Money or something. There's a book that talks about that. But there are institutions in Kenya that represent Americans, that represent Germans, that represent entities that are supposed to be doing work around civic engagement. They're supposed to be doing work around, mutual understanding, et cetera. And some of them work in embassies, some of them work in just CBOs, community-based organizations that have been funding. And so our organization is not funded. We work with a small army of donors. We sell products and services. And so those entities that are already funded, that are working in Kenya, that are supposedly doing this work, some of them actually are. And some of them haven't done anything tangible in many years. And so what we simply do is ask them if they want to partner, and ask them if they want to use their budget, the one that is dedicated to civic engagement, using arts and culture in the symbolic landscape where they're based, if they want to do that. So the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable, a part of our first step, it gives us an opportunity to have a face-to-face with those entities. So yes, we do an event and we invite the locals, and then we use our time while in the country to meet with those other entities that may not come to us, and we have to go to them. So just to give you an example, I'm going to show you what the Artisan Ambassadors flyer looked like from last year in South Africa. The Ambassadors Roundtable is always in August. That gives us enough time between August and November to still do some planning, right? To include some of those people we didn't know about, that we didn't know would show up, to include them as speakers, or consider them as the location for our day of service, which is always a part of our conference. So you can see that we always have a triad for speakers for the Artisan Ambassador Roundtable, but this is strategic. This is also an example of us connecting grassroots and grass tops. Tunokwe is a very popular artist in South Africa. If you are familiar with the movie Serafina, I think it was Disney, with Whoopi Goldberg, and anyway, I'm a movie buff. So great movie, all the music, the storyline, it's based on her life and a community center that she started prior to going into the school system. She's still an incredible artist today. She's traveled the world. She's what we consider a superhero, super shero in the grassroots. As an artist, she is incredible. She has respect in that regard. She's well known, and she has the ability to bring out the grassroots masses to at least get their attention. We need someone like that from Kenya. Then we have Firdoz Bubulia. You know that South Africa is the Rainbow Nation. And so you have the Indigenous, like Tunokwe. You have, of course, Firdoz, she's a part of the Indian community. You have the Coloreds, which are a mixed people, mixed with the Indigenous, or just mixed in general. And then you have the Africana. And so she was our connection to the other communities, and most importantly, our connection to grass tops. Our conference was held at Constitution Hill, which is the home of the Constitution. South Africa's Constitution is really new, and they hold it in an area that's called the Flame, the Ever-Burning Flame. And we held certain days of our conference at that location, and it was primarily because of our on-ground partner, Firdozi Bubulia, her connections in the media, in the national broadcast, as well as her history in advocacy around children's movies and education. They have a children's charter that speaks to the rights of children, and that they have rights to, acknowledging them in that regard. And so you can see that triad, including myself, which I represent the conference mission, and I make sure that the local people that have already been doing this work understand that we are coming to partner. We're not coming to take over. We're not coming to sponsor you. We're really coming to bring our biscuit to the table, as one of my elders say. You already have a meal that's cooking. You already have a mission. You're already doing the work. What we're saying is, we think we could be a part of that work too. And this conference is an opportunity for us to explore that in real, tangible ways. So I'm going to go back to the first screen so that I can continue to speak a little about the next stage in our artisan vision. So after the roundtable, which always takes place in August, giving us enough time to include those contributions into our program in November, then we have the conference. And the conference this year is November 4th through the 7th. I'm so excited to hear from you guys updates on location, etc. And after the conference, the work is still not done. This is not us coming to talk about a lot of great things and then say, good luck with that. Let me know how it works out. This is us inviting people around the world that actually want to do projects in the concepts that they're talking about, that are actually exploring using the conference as a feasibility study to see if this idea or concept is possible, to see if the local people actually want to work around this concept. And so from that angle, we call it Imagineering. That's what the people do, right? They're using their tools, their ideas, and their innovation to design solutions to our problems and imagine a better world. But as a conference, we also commit, in addition to the experts that come, we commit to what we call Art Tank. So we select someone from the competition. We invite local practitioners that want to engage in artpreneurship or connect their sustainable idea using art, innovation, and creativity in all its forms, connecting that to an area of societal development, art for social transformation, to see if their project is scalable. So they pitch that concept in competition with others. We choose one. We give them a platform at the conference to share their ideas, and the judges, they choose. I don't choose. I'm not a judge. And we give them a monthly stipend. So it's $200 per month. Now, that's not a lot of money, but if it's focused and concentrated, it could do some good in somebody's life that maybe is spending all of their resources just on living, so they don't have the extra money to put towards their project idea. And so we, in addition to the $200 per month, we give monthly consultation and business coaching sessions. And so that is the beginning of our own organizational exploration of what a long-time partnership or what long-term work would look like in Kenya or in whatever region the conference goes to next. Sometimes we stay and we're there for the next 4 years, like we've been in the Gambia, which was our second conference location. We have land in the Gambia. We're building there, looking at solar energy, that's STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. We have a compound working with African women, entrepreneurship, creating beauty and health products from local environments, and moringa, baobab, and lemongrass soap, and they're selling it around the world. We help them to get it into certain markets. And we're working with local visual artists. And so it's really great. Gambia is an example because it was the first. It was the first place where we realized after Ghana, where they had the capacity to continue the work without us, the Gambia in many ways did not. And so we decided in the Gambia that we had to be involved in every region that wanted us to be with execution of the concepts that we discussed. And so that is the third phase of the conference. And so I went through that overview. I was going to say brief overview, but it wasn't brief. And so I went through that overview because we have a few new people on our call, and I wasn't sure how much Boniface or Angie was able to discuss with you guys. And they themselves are still also learning about our vision. And Boniface, I'm so thankful to Boniface. He joined us in South Africa for the conference as a speaker. And he is the reason that this year we're coming to Kenya. We only go where we're invited. And we're very committed to that because I know what it's like to go to a place where you haven't been invited and you just think it's a good idea and nobody else living there does. And so now the first part of your work is convincing them that you should be there, that it's a benefit for everyone involved. Well, you're going to have to do that anyway. You're going to have to convince the local people that you're competent, that everything that they're doing, they should give space also to what you're doing and find ways to co-create because it's beneficial, because everybody has an agenda. They're already busy. And so having to do that in a space where you weren't even invited is double work. And so I just want to thank you, Boniface, for being that open door, for seeing this vision and experiencing it, for saying yes when you could have said no. So thank you again, and thank you always. But because we have so many new faces that you guys know, but I don't, I know you had the call on Saturday, but could we do brief introductions just so that I know who's at the table now? Hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. Someone is speaking. Karen.
Well, I mean, I can start if that's more comfortable. So again, my name is Kim Poole. I'm with the Teaching Artists Institute, and I, up until this point, have been the chief visionary of the Artisan Conference. I am a traditional artist. I perform, I sing, and I appreciate being at the table, co-creating with all of you.
I can go next. Thank you, Kim, for your introduction and for convening us. My name's Karen. I'm in the States right now, but have been in Kenya. I was a Fulbright scholar there in 2017, 2018, and then just a Fulbright specialist for the last March and April 2022. I work in theater for social justice and have partnered a bit with Bonfis in a project on using theater as a way to address community relations with the police, especially during the pandemic. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation and hope I'll be able to be in Kenya in November. We'll see. But thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you. So, who's next?
I could go next.
Okay, please go.
Okay,
Yes.
my name is Rose. I'm Kenyan. I teacher by profession. I'm working with children. I'm working with young adults and adults as well in the creatives, mostly doing a lot of storytelling and singing and also learning instruments. I'm also working with the special needs children with different spectrums of autism, cerebral palsy, dyslexia, also now teaching them how to play music instruments. I have done a project with Boniface with the police who are talking about trauma management within the forces. So I'm happy to be here and you're so welcome to come to Kenya. You'll be seeing me soon. Thank you.
Hello.
Greetings.
Yeah, my name is David Samala. I'm from Kenya. I'm also working with an organization.
Hey, David, I think you're breaking up a little bit. Is that only on my end, or is it also kind of fuzzy for other people?
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah, we can hear
So
you.
my name is David Shamala. I'm working with a Mweshima organization based in Busia. We're working with issues of education. I'm also involved with issues of activism, community initiatives in Kenya. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Looking forward to a fruitful conversation.
Poor baby, we still can't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
Maybe you
But
should try to speak to the mic.
yeah. And I know that you're outside, and so the signal might not be as strong. Maybe if you just post a small write-up inside the group chat as we go along, I can read it. But I can also say on David's behalf, I met him while advocating for global African women at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. And I was so surprised that when we put out the call asking for volunteers, that David answered. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's different. We're expecting women. And so it was so refreshing, such a breath of fresh air for David to say, no, I too am interested in advocating for global African women, and I don't need to be paid. I'm here to help. I know that it'll give me opportunities to do other work, and I'm also interested in learning. Just so humble and such hardworking young man. Thank you for being at this table too, David. I look forward to this journey. So I guess we can keep it going. Anyone else?
Hi, yeah, I could go.
Yeah.
Let me turn on my video. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Suzanne. I work for the Trust for Indigenous Culture and Health here in Nairobi. That's a Kenyan organization founded in 2003. that works at the intersection of culture, art, and health. So our premise, our belief is that culture is the through line to everything. And culture is the thing that could bring health, or the opposite, whatever that is. And so we work in 4 overlapping programs, but which is, we work in a lot of different spaces too. But the four main ones are sexual reproductive health and rights. And that is all over Kenya, but also Pan-Africa. And we work with artists, contemporary artists, traditional artists, arts collectives, performing artists, storytellers, any, to us, art is very broad. And we work in nutrition and herbal medicine, trying to bridge the gap between the food security issues in urban slums in Nairobi, with trying to bring more awareness and connect people to indigenous foods and herbal medicine that can help, that is of low cost, to help people prevent and treat illness. And then we work with indigenous elders here in Kenya, and actually all over the world, in learning about what can we learn from indigenous practices and indigenous wisdom and history that can help us as we move forward. And a lot of what we do is what you were saying, Kim, is as intergenerational dialogues that involve indigenous wisdom and art and talks about reproductive health. So a lot of what we do is overlapping. And I am the International Outreach and Art Director. So I support more on the culture side of TICA, and I manage the arts program. So I'll put our link in the chat here, so you can check out more about us. But happy to be here. This is exciting. So thanks.
Nice. I'm really excited about what you guys do. It's nice to hear so many entities on the ground that already get it and are already working. That is going to be such a breath of fresh air, working with you guys and seeing how we can support what's already happening. So we have a couple more folks that need to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'll be next, Kim. So my name is Boniface Betty. I'm a Kenyan. I'm based here in Nairobi, working with Angie with the Greenstream Network. And I'm also, it's been my great life transforming experience meeting Kim and even Haki, and an initiative that has worked in a lot of African countries, but also with others. I met Kim through knowing others, people that we worked with, Indigenous artists and expressive arts artists in Canada where I was in school. I met them at the conference, then later we connected. So since that time, it's been really, I saw a lot of ways in which our ideas intersected and ways in which there was a lot of synergy between what I do as an artist, theater artist, and working at intersection between the arts and peace building and social justice and what the Teaching Artists Institute is doing. So when I heard that this organization had partnered with artists in Ghana, in Gambia, I joined in South Africa, in Tanzania with a very vibrant group called Magoma Moto in Bagamoyo, I felt Kenya is one of those countries in Africa that needs to be, like, it's always not left behind in many ways. And there's a lot of resources, assets, cultural resources, artistic resources that are always here that can be tapped into, can connect with this richness from other places in Africa and globally, especially, to reflect deeply on the role of the arts and social justice and social change. And the fact that Africa is at this very important moment at the moment because of global changes. And the artists are really becoming agents for everyday reclamation of identity, through storytelling, through kind of alternative ways of creating worlds. So I felt it was important to make an application like to Teaching Artists Institute to partner with Kenyan partners. So I see my role here really as a kind of a connector role because I'm one, but we never work as only individuals as artists. We work through connections, networks, ecosystems. So that is why each one of us, I think, is very critical connector and part of the ecosystem. So it gives me a lot of privilege. And so I'm working with Angie, so I think she's the only one who is here. We would like to hear her voice. Angie, are you there? Okay. Okay, I see she's written in the chat. Oh, Bonnie introduced me. Okay, she seems to have run out of her gate at her home. So Angie is the executive director for Greenstring Network. So I am working with her with that organization, and our work spans like we work in Kenya, we work in other countries, we work South Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, and we work at intersection between trauma healing, peace building, and art-based approaches to this kind of work. And I am charged with the responsibility with others. We have a group of artists within GSN also that we work together to kind of do this kind of work on the ground, grassroots, and what Kim was calling, was it tops and grassroots? See something interesting. So we bring the tops and the grassroots through arts, but also using our lens of trauma-informed peace building. So that's me. I think I will have to rest my case there for now.
And it's a great case that you've made,
Yeah.
Okay, we have one more. Mr. Hakiyami.
Well, yes, I'm just looking forward to coming to Kenya this year. Just again, with you guys, it was a pleasure to talk to you the other day. So for those that were on the call, definitely looking forward to this. This is going to be an amazing experience for us, and we hope that it's going to be an amazing experience for you. So we're working very tactfully and strategically here on the ground to make this happen, accessing our partners here that are interested in this work. So just continue to hang in there with us as we dot the I's and cross the T's to make this happen.
Thank you, Haki. And thank you all. Such a diverse, powerful team. I'm excited about all the possibilities, and I'm also overwhelmed by our very, I'll say, a very aggressive timeline. We're already here on July 11th, and it's important that we put a few things in place so that we can expedite our marketing materials, etc. Of course, as you saw, in August, we do our Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable. The prerequisite to the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable is a virtual discussion that talks with the community about why the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable is necessary. So I think that choosing a date in July, I guess it will be the end of July, deciding when we want to have that conversation about maybe just the upcoming election, maybe the important role of artists and art practitioners in the discussion around that, maybe the importance of civic engagement and community involvement in advance. Could be a part of the discussion, and then use that exchange to introduce the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable. I will be in Kenya for the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable between August 22nd and August 25th. So choosing which day specifically, that's going to be. Of course, I know that you guys, maybe Bondface would be a part of that triad, or maybe Angie, but we would need to find that third person, that one that will get the local grassroots people excited, that they trust, that they know, that is of them, to be a part of that discussion too. And then we need to develop the letter that we send out inviting them officially. We have a small budget for media, and that budget can help us get the word out. Once we develop a flyer about the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable, then you guys let us know on the ground what media outlets you're accustomed to, so that we can, send you the funds for the promotion campaign to promote the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable. We usually come to the roundtable prepared with a document. The document, our sponsorship packet, is like our conference history. It tells you where we've been, our goals in more detail, and at the back, it does ask for sponsorship. There are many companies in Kenya that can help to sponsor this, the same way that there are companies in the US that help to sponsor as well. And so we want to invite them to the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable as well. Maybe they say we don't have money, but we can do all the water that you need every day of the conference for every meal. That's a big deal. Water's a big deal. And so we want to make sure that they know the ask, so that they can say yes. They say in fundraising that people give because somebody asked them. So we don't want to not ask people that might support the conference on the ground simply because we didn't ask them. And the first step to asking is inviting them to the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable in August. And so people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So the Ambassadors Roundtable is an opportunity for us to tell them how much we care about this topic, how much we know that it can positively affect the country or the potential aftermath of the election. And we're not saying we want to make the people docile, that we don't want them to, get swole up in the chest because they don't like what's happening on the ground in their country. What we're saying is that there are other ways to express how you feel. There are other ways to speak back against, speak truth to power. And so we're experienced with that. And so our conference can be a part of that conversation. So I want to pull up one more document or a picture. And it is the flyer from last year's conference. After the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable, we select those keynote speakers that will be speaking at the conference. And we try to use 4 every year, and they come from different backgrounds. The point is to have them, of course, represent South Africa. So I said South Africa, Kenya. So one keynote speaker that you all feel would be the best representation of art for social transformation, connecting artists and art culture to sustainable development in Kenya. We want them to be our keynote. Now, we can't pay them, but we do cover all of their transport, all of their accommodation at the hotel, and their feeding during the time of the conference. We do also take their advice on which institution in the community should be the beneficiary of our conference day of service, where we are able to give resources and not just financial, but time, and just our, the sweat of our brow on that physical, actual day. I, in a perfect world, would love PLO Lumumba, but whoever you guys recommend is just fine with me. We would like to also choose one person from the US, and then we have 2 more slots. We like to recognize a community or nation that isn't typically recognized. And that is how Bondface joined us last year, because Jennifer Fulayan, she is a part of the Native American, the Indigenous people of the US, and she put together a delegation of 8 Indigenous people from the US, and they came to teach the healing practices of their community to South Africa. And she invited him, because of his expertise in theater and peace building, to be a part of the team. And so this year we are recognizing the Gullah Geechee Nation, also another nation that developed within the borders of the US that's under-recognized. And so we have another spot, basically. So if you guys have suggestions for keynote speakers, we would love that. I tell you that, but I also would like to say that our keynote speakers are not traditional keynote speakers. It's not them coming in, we hold their bags, they sit in a special seat. We are very big on servant leadership. And so we want people that are doing the work in the community that would even potentially be interested in helping to do the work after the conference is over, even if under the umbrella of their current mission. And so if you know somebody like that, a servant leader that's doing the work, living by example, passionate about art for social transformation, please suggest them. I also bring up this flyer for you to see the background. It's not a nice graphic art that we found on Canva. It is the work of a local artist in Ghana. So I guess at this point, Boniface, I'll hand it over to you so that you can give us updates around location, the local artists that you've commissioned to do our backdrops and things of that nature. And I guess we'll go from there. Boniface, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with that. So yeah, I really want, thank you very much, Kim, for giving us like a very rich background of what's happening and what we should be planning to do. Yeah, so like you said, I think from the previous meeting, we had agreed to look for the artist who is, we managed to find Joan, and she's into doing that work for us. That's number one. And then that was the first thing. And then the second thing was the venue, actually. And we had some issues with the venue because of the nature of how artistic spaces are kind of utilized in this country, especially in Nairobi. There is cost on most of the venues. That's what we found out this just last week. And it became like in our previous meeting with the Haki and Angie, we had a conversation around that, looking at what we can do about it. That's why we were like, we can have a discussion in this meeting also, because the venue, we had several of them, and even the museum is like, they were charging too much money that we felt it was almost depressing us. So that was one thing we needed to talk about. If people have ideas about venues and how we can be able to raise funds for specifically for venue, it becomes very, very important. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you have commissioned an artist to develop, and just for those that are here for the first time today, every year for our conference, we commission an artist to reinterpret the life cycle of a butterfly. We believe the butterfly's life cycle is one of the best examples of social transformation when the analogy is made, and art for social transformation in our place. And so we use that as an opportunity to explain the procession of the conference, how it goes, the progression. And so each year we choose an artist, not necessarily from the country where we're hosting the conference, but there were so many great options from the long list of artists that Boniface works with. And so I'm glad to hear that you guys have found someone. And as soon as they finish that work, if we can get those professional pictures taken, we'll integrate that into all of our digital documents, and we'll have that work on display in our artifacts gallery, the exhibition hall during the actual conference. Secondly, I heard that you don't yet have a space. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's the thing that we spend a lot of time talking about in our last meeting. So it's one thing that we are trying to figure out how to get the space because of costs. And what else can be done to navigate that is something we haven't figured out yet.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
perhaps there is an opportunity for us to have that conversation together at some of the venues that you're considering. When I come in August, I'm not sure what space you all currently work out of, but what I will say is that the reason this is a partnership is because there's responsibility on both sides, and we don't want it to be fully sponsored by us or fully sponsored by you. And so you providing the venue for us, it demonstrates your capacity to the outside world and the experts that we bring that are essentially, you know, paying their own ways and their own fees and even contributing financially to the days of service, et cetera, that you've definitely signed up for this too, and you're able, you have the capacity, and you know, stand on your square to say, we're in this with you, because that is only the beginning. Imagineering beyond the conference it could be potentially a long journey of partnering and building together. And so when I come in August, I'm willing to help have the conversation. I don't know. I don't think that'll help really from what I've learned in other countries and past conference, that when they see me come, it's like, oh, now you definitely have money. If I didn't think you had money before, you definitely have some now. It's like, wait, you just got off the plane from the US? No. We're going to charge you double. And so, but I don't know, maybe it'll help, but just let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Keep me updated.
Yeah, because really what we want is like, yeah, and I really get the point from the whole spirit of this kind of the activity we want to organize. So the real deal here is we are bringing all this so that we can, in a way, kind of be innovative and creative around how finding the space. Because I know, like in other countries, probably I don't know how it works in finding spaces, but contexts that do, like most countries like Kenya, I know people always look for ways to exploit, especially like between now, the country's in inflation, there is election, and there is a lot of people trying to use their spaces to make kind of money. So the reason for that, for bringing this up, is so that even as a small team, there is kind of ways in which we can imaginatively or creatively think about that, how we can be creative around that, especially with the local people on the call.
Sure. And I would say try your hand at reaching out to institutions. So the government should have space for conversations like this. Local universities, they should hold space for conversations like this. Maybe local museums that are actually interested in the topic, they should hold space for this. All of the embassies that are basically supposed to represent the interests of the people in your country, the US, we have people coming in from Germany as well. They hold space, they have space. And so they can all be a part of the conversation. You know, just the aggressive timeline. But that's why having the conversation yesterday is important. And I know you've already had a few, which is great. And so maybe circling back around with those people and inviting them to the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable. And that conversation can be small. It can even be, you know, in the one of the rooms at the hotel where I stay. It'd be nicer if it was somewhere in the community, you know, more integrated into the area where artists come already. But, you know, I'll leave that to you guys, knowing your area, knowing who's who and what's where.
Yeah, and maybe before Angie chimes in. So yeah, so it's just recognition and the reckoning that this is a conversation we'll have, and that it's a conversation that actually we must have to think around that, thinking about how we can use space even as individual organizations, but it will come with other dynamics. For example, even if you're an organization and you use your space, there will be other ways in which you make things work logistically also. So I'm just saying, like, this is a conversation that needs to actually happen. So in our team. Yeah, Angie, maybe you can go.
I will say, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in the art scene, and they've said Kenya is different than South Africa, Uganda, the West African countries. Like, there aren't those spaces. That's the problem. They're very commercially run. So the National Theater will choose, the National Museum will choose. They're asking commercial rates for such things. So this is part of the problem that I think we're facing. Suzanne wants to know how many people we're thinking. You were thinking 200 to 300, correct?
Yeah, 200 to 300.
And we can sit down maybe with Susanna and Tika, and I'll sit down with Madoni Garland and say, what do we do? But I sat with her a couple weeks ago, and she said for Story Moja Festival that they were putting on at the museum, they were still being charged $50,000 or something for the museum. So like, it's crazy. And partly what I was being told is that the commercial interests are using these spaces, and so there's no like push to get them to the culture, because the culture isn't actually highlighted. And yes, there's Alliance Francaise, and they're under construction, I think. The Goethe Institute. Baraza? What? Oh, Baraza Media Lab. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, I just put that in the chat. I'm just trying to think of things. I also, as you commented on, Angie, thinking about maybe Kit Fest is going on at that time. They're probably really overcapacitizing. That's not a word, but I'm going to use it. The National Theater, and then the small, the Kidogo auditorium. But maybe there's a way to figure, or their partnership with Kenyatta University, like, I don't know, maybe there's a way to connect to them. I certainly can reach out to Fadari and Kevin and see if there's any. Also, I was just thinking about another space that is Power 254. That's a pretty low capacity, huh?
Yeah, that one's pretty small.
Yeah.
Like 300 people is a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot to accommodate. I don't know if anything connected to Christopher and Ken Wakia at the embassy, if they could help us. Muthoni is, I'm sure you know, is I think still on the board of the Theater Company of Kenya, and so maybe they might have a connection. But I think the capacity is the big piece, as Suzanne was saying.
And we've thought about renting kind of the backyard from our office and putting up tents and things like that. So that's one of the things that we've started to think about. But it's not a national location. It's the space is really an issue here. And as I sat with Madoni and others who were at the table, they were like, we don't even know where to tell you to go.
I was going to say that one thing that also happened in South Africa, yes, we had Constitution Hill, and that was the big deal that gave the conference and the topic legitimacy, in not only in the eyesight of local institutions, but also to the places outside the country that we promoted. We also use grassroots spots.
Okay.
On the other days, and there may be a way where multiple conversations are happening simultaneously, and we just have like a shuttle that takes people to those various places in different communities, and then it really is a community conversation happening. It's nice when you're able to bring everybody to you, at least on one day. But then it's also really nice when you can go to those areas. And if we have a good, shuttle service, that's also possible.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is really a conversation that really needs to be deepened, and it's something we really started to talk about with so many people, and we will be able to look at the practicability of such, like how do you move people from one point, like what Angie was talking about. If we open our backyard where our office is, then we have a way in which we link our office, which is not very far from Shangilia Mtoto Africa Center for street kids, and the whole idea of how do people move from one point to another. So there are those kind of nitty-gritties that we look at. And I see someone has written about Sarakasi. Actually, Sarakasi Dome is a dome called Sarakasi. We will try to talk to the lady who's running. I think I have her contact, so I will reach out to her, and I know they charge, because that is the reason why a lot of these even theater spaces are charging. It's because how else do you sustain those spaces, if you don't charge people to use them? So sometimes what they do is they subsidize, or if you have a company that can be able to pay for that, and then you can use it. Or I think for us, the most practical way will be to look at the community conversations, but then it will also have its own logistical challenges. So those are things we are not afraid to think about. We will still have conversations with everyone. We are just mentioning them so that at least they are put in the discussions.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit today. I'm so appreciative of this conversation. Meanwhile, as we continue to look at that, Boniface, I'll book my arrangements to be there in August in the WhatsApp group chat. Please post your availability for a Zoom conversation with the public about what's happening on the ground in Kenya right now and why this type of topic is important right now, specifically in Kenya. We'd like to have that conversation before July ends. I will be in Tanzania on July 20th. So just saying, I'll be in your time zone. So if you needed to do it, something more convenient for you, that's very okay. And we can share it with this side of the world the next day if it doesn't work for them to tune in live. But yes, please post your availability for that kind of Zoom virtual conversation. If you would like to tune in, Boniface, from that, if you could just choose a date that works best for you before July ends, and I'll send my itinerary for my flight and book a local hotel. If you guys have a suggestion for a hotel that is owned by one of your friends or something like that, I would love to support them. So please give me that information. Meanwhile, I'll just do, I don't know, a Marriott or Hilton. I don't know what's on the ground yet. But I will be there the third week in August. And so I guess Boniface, I'll talk with you offline with Angie to do logistics around the Artisan Ambassadors Roundtable, and then we can bring that information back to the group. Before we go, are there any more questions, comments, things that people just want to put out there? Okay.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, Boniface?
No, nothing. I think I'm good. But maybe just one thing, if people they can talk to other people, or they have ideas how we can get venues, kindly reach out and let's talk on the group.
Thank you for that, Boniface.
Yeah.
Looking forward to reconnecting with you all again, and have a happy Monday.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.